Alrighty, I'm Navi. Today we're going to be doing an extended episode of Am I the Asshole? We're going to be looking at 3 different stories with some pretty unexpected endings.
This was given to us by a tiny pastel unicorn.
Am I the asshole for telling my nephew to make amends with his estranged sister? My sister died when her 2 children were very young. Her husband raised the children as a single dad until he died 3 years ago. My niece, let's call her Brenda, is 34. My nephew, let's call him Brian, is 30. I'm 49, and I've always been close with Brenda. Oh God, I can see where this is going. I sort of took her under my wing after my sister died. She comes to me for guidance. I have children of my own, but I consider Brenda my bonus daughter. She was very close with her father, and she was utterly devastated when he died suddenly. Brian has always been in his own world. He didn't have much of a relationship with his father, and he has always been distant with me and my children. He moved 13 hours away when he was 21. He got married there. He barely visits. Brian hates Brenda. He estranged himself from her right after their father died. He claims that Brenda is a bully to him and his wife. He also claims that Brenda stole his inheritance. Brenda can be spirited and emotional sometimes, and she says things she doesn't mean, but she's a good person with a big heart. She goes to church with me, and Brian and his wife haven't stepped foot into a church in a long time. Okay, OP, oh my freaking... Brenda also helps out with my mother, and Brian visits my mother, his own grandmother, only every 1 or 2 years. We have no idea what Brian's doing with his life. Maybe you should ask him. I stayed out of the inheritance situation because it's none of my business. Brenda was very devastated when her brother disowned her. She has no family left except me, my children, and my mother. I spent a lot of time supporting her through it. Recently, my mother had a 75th birthday party and Brian came. Of course, his wife couldn't be bothered to come. Brenda was out of town, so she wasn't there. Brian and I sat at the same table with my children and their own significant others. I then updated Brian on how Brenda was doing, and he blew up at me. He told me he didn't care about his sister and what was going on with her. He demanded that I stop talking about her. I told him that I wished he would make amends with her, and he scoffed and said it would never happen. I suggest that he move back home and maybe they'll get past all this, because it's what his parents would have wanted. He said nothing and stormed off. I was humiliated because he spoke to me in a disrespectful way in front of my children, and he was talking so loudly that the other tables could hear him. My son and his girlfriend admitted that they don't like Brenda either. That was news to me, and I should respect Brian's wishes. I tried to explain my feelings, but they told me to post here. Am I the asshole? I'm sure their parents also wouldn't have wanted Brenda to steal from her brother. But I mean, that's none of your business, so why would you care that she did that? OP, it sounds a lot like you and Brenda are very similar. Sounds like you like to go to church with her and, be judgmental about other people. Maybe the reason why Brenda only has you left is because you are like her and no one likes either of you. I mean, there were clearly enough people at the party to make you feel embarrassed when Brian called you out on your bullshit. So, it's clear that your mother has plenty of people. So I have to wonder, how many of those people are estranged from you? How much of this are you projecting about? Either way, OP, you're very clearly the asshole here. Maybe you can take Brenda and replace your children with her, since they don't like her either. Am I the asshole for paying for my boyfriend's son's girlfriend to get a haircut? This is a bit of a weird situation. I'm a 32-year-old woman, and my boyfriend is a 45-year-old man. He has a son, Sam, that's not his real name, who's 14, and his girlfriend, Katie, also not her real name, is also 14. They were over at our flat hanging out on Sunday. It was just me at home, and they were mostly hanging around in Sam's bedroom. At about 2 p.m., I hear Katie crying, and I go to see what's wrong. And apparently, she decided she wanted to cut her own hair and give herself an undercut, and she'd completely messed it up. Her hair looked absolutely ruined, shaved on one side and hacked off on the other, and bright orange from bleach. She was in tears worrying about school on Monday and absolutely distraught. I've been there and done that when I was young, so after comforting Katie, I decided to call up a few mobile hairdressers and salons to see if there was anyone who could fix it on very short notice. I decided to call up a few mobile hairdressers and salons to see if there was anyone who could fix it at a very short notice on a Sunday. I found a mobile hairdresser who said she could come over and try to sort it out, and she thankfully did and was able to sort out the undercut, fix the color, and generally make Katie's hair look presentable for school and stop her from feeling so awful. I paid for it, and it was not remotely cheap. It came out to €170, but I was happy to do that because I know how it feels to be a teenage girl and ruin your hair. I should also say at this point that I asked Katie if she wanted me to find a hairdresser, and she said yes and was very grateful about it. I didn't push her into it at all. Anyway, cut to last night, and her parents apparently got in touch with my boyfriend to complain about what I'd done and how I hadn't asked their permission. They said I had no right to do it, and they were even talking about speaking to the police or a solicitor about it, although what crime I've committed is beyond me. Am I the asshole here? If it were me, I think I'd be grateful, but I'm not a parent, so I'm not sure if I overstepped the mark. If I'm in the wrong, I'll happily go over there and apologize. Thankfully, this one comes with an update. Firstly, thank you all for your comments. The feedback was really helpful, and I definitely see that I should have asked for her to speak to her parents first. I called them up this evening to talk it through and apologize, and as it turns out, Katie didn't tell them that she'd bleached and cut her own hair first, as a lot of you actually guessed in the comments. Her mom apologized to me for going a bit off the rails yesterday, and I apologized for not getting in touch with her before calling the hairdresser, or asking Katie to. I think we're all good now, but I'll definitely bear a lot of this in mind in case something similar happens again. I am so glad this all worked out, OP. It's really great that you did that for Katie. I get that you probably should have asked her parents first, and it's really mature of you to recognize that. I can get why she didn't want to tell them that she'd messed up first, but I'm glad that it eventually came out, and I'm glad that you guys are in better terms now. No worries, OP. You're not the asshole. Am I the asshole for blowing off my boyfriend's plans for a more exciting trip? Yes. But we'll see what you have to say. Typing this at the airport before my flight starts boarding. I'm in college. I've been dating Steve for a year. Steve is from a rural town in Ohio where nothing ever happens. He's been begging me to come out and see him over the summer. I considered it until I found out my two best friends will be visiting their boyfriends in Europe. They're exchange students. I was not about to waste 2 weeks in Pippin, Ohio, while they're hiking with their boyfriends in the Alps. So I decided, flip that shit. Now I'm waiting to board a flight to Denver for 6 weeks of hiking and camping across 4 states. Steve has been blowing up my phone and begging me to reconsider. He wants to introduce me to his family and check out life in Ohio for when we graduate next year. I told him no and hung up when he called me jealous for blowing off Ohio because my friends would have a cooler summer break than me. I ask if I'm the asshole because my friends were with me when he last called. While we're sick of Steve's shit, they think I may have been a little harsh when I blew him off for pestering me about his stupid summer plans. It's not just a vacation. He wants a whole life with me in Ohio. You know, somehow it always shocks me that people like this actually exist. Oh my freaking goodness. Please do that boy a favor and leave him. He deserves better. He deserves a girl who wants to meet his family. He deserves a girl who doesn't get jealous of her own friends because they're having a better summer. He was right when he said that. You are acting jealous. You are going on a different trip because you think their trip is cooler than the one you had planned. And I think you should know. Theirs is still cooler. Them going to Europe is still cooler than you traveling across the States. So you didn't really, get what you wanted in the end. All you did was blow off a really great guy. I hope Steve finds someone new. You're the asshole. Well, my dudes, there we have it. 3 stories, 2 assholes, and 1 great auntie. It's always great to know that someone's got your back. Do you know who else has got your back? Me! You know who probably doesn't though? The algorithm. She's a bit of a grump, but you can try feeding her by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I love you all very much, and as usual, I hope you have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.